Great seeing you on the last wave devotions this week. And we are looking at the subject matter of what does it mean to be God's friend. We've been ripping this apart all week long on the same passage. Here we go. Or at least we start here. John 15, verse 12 through 13. Now, again, look what he says. I want you to love one another as I have loved you. Now, I want you to notice the way that's stated, that's a command of God. We're to love people. Greater love hath no one than this, that someone lays down his life for his friends. Okay, again, people say, well, I love God, and if somebody told me, would you die for him? I would die for him. Listen, why don't you just start living for him? The way that you lay down your life for God is you lay your life down for other people. There's this phrase, and it goes like this. Am I willing to leverage me for us? Am I willing to leverage me for us? And you say, well, what does that mean? It's a little shocking to me. A lot of people that are in the ministry today, they'll look at their ministry and they'll look at if your ministry might be in the church and you got Bible study teaching, or you work as an usher, or you work with the children, or let's say you're the pastor of the church. And so we'll look at the church and then somebody offends us. And we're like, oh, they didn't appreciate me. I can't believe they said that to me. And we decide we're going to leave. Or you're the pastor of the church, and you look at the church and you say, well, I want to see, what kind of income are they offering? Or what kind of retirement package? Okay, if you're part of most churches, there is no retirement package. Okay? I'm just warning you ahead of time. All right, but should we be doing that? Listen, I'm like we're old-fashioned, but everything I have is leveraged for God. And I mean that. It is. I don't understand. I came to this church 38 years ago, and I said I'm going to come here and I'm going to die there. And if I get hurt along the way, it's just too bad. And so we are to lay down our lives for other believers if we are a friend of God. Now look in John chapter 10, verse 11. It says, I am the good shepherd, and the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Okay, so, you'd put everything you have on the line for other people you love. Now, people will emulate this. Yeah, I'll tell you a little something about my kids. My children are very, very close to each other. And, they're not children. They go from 40 all the way on down. And but if you see them, they just love each other. And they fight and argue about things. But, boy, I'll tell you what, don't you mess with their sibling, okay? And they would put everything down to help their sibling in the situation that they're in. And they've proven themselves. Well, that's the way that we should be for other believers. If we love God and we're a friend of God, then we're going to do that. Now, I want to let you know that friendship, it requires maintenance. It does. So I talked yesterday a little bit about showing up for things. So we show up for things when people are hurting, or show up for gatherings and fellowship. I hate to say this. Most Christians are sleeping at the wheel, and they need to wake up. Because you say you love God and you know your Bible, but you're not helping other believers. You're not leveraging what you have to help somebody else that is in need. Now look with me in 1 John 3:16. It says, by this we know love, that he, Jesus, laid down his life for us. Okay, so what should we do? We ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. Okay, so if you say, well, I really love God, but, I wouldn't lay down my life for other believers. Well, then you really don't love God. Now, if you're a friend of God and you're a really close friend of God, then your heart will be burdened with what God's heart is burdened, and that's for other believers, and you're going to want to help them. That's just very important. I don't know about you, but I want to be God's friend. I like this picture here. I do. I picked this out here. My son's in heaven right now, and I'm kind of crazy. But I think to myself, wouldn't it be great one day to be sitting and listening to Jesus teaching in heaven? Listen, that's wonderful, but let me tell you, many people, when you get to heaven, you're either going to say, I wish I would have, or I thank God I did. I want to encourage you to be God's friend. I want to encourage you to make Jesus the most important person in your life. Now listen, when you make God your very best friend, you will never be alone.